I recently took an Arizona road trip, and Sedona was my third stop. I had read there was a 90% chance of rain that day, so I researched things to do in Sedona in the rain. The drive-in from Jerome was spectacular. When you hit Red Rock country, you can't help but get a sense of awe. The mountains are just beautiful. When I was close to Sedona, I saw a sign for Red Rock Loop Road, so spontaneously decided to drive in that direction. I assumed the loop would take me back to the road I was on. It led me to Red Rock State Park, which I didn't enter, but it was definitely a pretty area. Eventually the road took me through some high-end homes and into town. It was a pretty drive. I then drove straight to the Pink Jeep Tour. I hadn't made a reservation because of the rain, even though I knew they operated rain or shine. I was hoping I could book last minute since it was only me and take advantage of a pocket of sunshine. I did exactly that. Each Jeep seats 8 people, so I joined a group of 7, and since the group was together, I sat in the premium front seat, one of the advantages of going solo. I had read about these Jeep tours for years and wondered if they were all hype, but it was fantastic. The Jeep took you places you can only access by hiking or Jeep. There are several routes you can take. I opted for the Broken Arrow Tour, which is billed as their most extreme off-road adventure. I thought this might challenge my fear of heights, but the ticket seller assured me this was a better one if I wasn't comfortable with cliffs. Fortunately, we also had a very cautious and slow driver, so it was never scary. A little bumpy, but never scary. For the first half of the 2-hour trip, there was no rain, so we were able to get out of the Jeep for some photo opportunities. I asked the guide to take a photo of me, and he got a little carried away with directing my poses. I paid for it the next day, but some great photos. These pictures were taken from the top of Submarine Rock. The views you can see are just stunning. There was a short little hike to get from the Jeep to the top. One of our passengers stayed below because she couldn't navigate the uneven surfaces, so take note of that. After about 20 minutes taking in the panoramic views of Submarine Rock, we got back in the Jeep and drove to Chicken Point. The guide pointed out 2 nuns, Chapel Butte, Yogi Bear Rock, and Mushroom Rock. Fun names for the wonderful rock formations. It had started to rain at that point, and we were handed rain ponchos. However, none of us put them on. It wasn't raining that hard, and the Jeep had a canvas top that shielded most of the rain. As I said, the ride was at times bumpy. Here are some of the tricky rocks we navigated. It was all great fun, and worth every penny of the $147 ticket. On the way back, I asked the guy to suggest a healthy restaurant for lunch. He suggested the Secret Garden Cafe in the Tlaquepaque Arts and Shopping Village. It was a short drive and parking was easy and free. I planned to visit the village anyway, so I was able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I enjoyed the food in the cute restaurant and then set about exploring the village. It is a well-known tourist hub because of its galleries, shops, and restaurants. It is beautifully laid out with Spanish architecture, sculptures, sitting areas, and lovely fountains. Of course, it was still sprinkling, so I stayed mostly under the covered walkways. Here are some images from some of the shops and galleries. There was some really nice artwork. The village has a north and south side, so after exploring one side, I crossed over to the other. They had crossing guards to monitor the crossing and keep the traffic moving. I have to say that Sedona has encouraged tourism without ruining the beauty of the town. They have roundabouts on the road to slow the traffic down but keep it moving. They have free trams that will take hikers to trailheads so you don't have cars lined up on the side of the roads. I had been to Sedona when it had no streetlights, so it was somewhat startling to see the huge growth of the city. However, I feel the city is doing a good job of restraining the massive growth and controlling traffic by expanding public transportation. Good move, Sedona. After browsing the galleries of Tlaquepaque, I decided to head to the Chapel of the Holy Cross, which is one of the higher-ranked sights to see in Sedona. I drove there, and as soon as I entered the area, I saw cars parked on the side of the road. Since someone was pulling out, I thought I scored by nabbing their parking spot. I then started walking in the direction everyone else was walking, but decided to go back to my car to grab my umbrella. It had started to rain more heavily. I then took off again in the same direction, only to realize about 10 minutes later that I was walking in the wrong direction. Note to self, don't follow other people. I then proceeded to walk up the street, which had a gradual incline. It took me about 20 minutes to get to the top, where I discovered at least 10 parking spaces right next to the chapel. I was soaking wet at that point, but at least I got my steps in. The view from the plaza in front of the chapel is quite pretty, taking advantage of its perch on the mountain. The church itself is built right into the mountain, which is quite an architectural feat. I expected the chapel to be a bit bigger than it was. However, you can see it only seats a small number of people. There were many people sitting in silent prayer or lighting candles. There are stairs that lead down to a gift shop that has many religious objects and souvenirs. I didn't stay long. I thought it was a good place to go in the rain, and it was, but not the way I managed it. I was definitely soaked by the time I got back to my car. I had a little more daylight in Sedona, so I was trying to figure out how to spend those hours when I spotted an interesting store called Silver Sun West. Its sign says they have the finest Western and traditional art. Well, I'm not sure that quite characterizes the eclectic mix of stuff they sell. Yes, they have all sorts of pots and Western wall art and decor, but they also have a huge Tyrannosaurus Rex, rhinos, buffaloes, a Bob's Big Boy, a space alien, Smokey Bear, and some strange wood carvings. I don't know what this is, or this. Whoever owns this place obviously has a sense of humor. I found the place highly entertaining and worth a quick stop. So that concluded my day in Sedona. I cut the day slightly short since it was really pouring at this point. I didn't feel the rain ruin my trip though. As a matter of fact, the rain actually makes the desert colors more remarkable. As I headed out the next morning, I was once again in awe of the beauty of the mountains. There was a leftover mist from the rains that made the mountains even more magical. Sedona definitely earns its reputation as a tourist destination. I will certainly be back. And if you'd like to follow more of my senior and solo travels, please like and subscribe. Cheers!